Back for another episode as we get closer to the season here of the Washed Up Walk-Ons podcast. This season brought to you by FanDuel. We're big time over here, Coach. We got sponsors. You know how we do around here. It's official. We have a special guest today, and I'm solo episode. No Kevin, no Grant. So I really hope I don't mess this one up because this is one of the all-time guys from our time at Iowa. Coach Joel Welsh joins the show today. Coach, so thankful that you're here, and I'm excited to catch up, man.
I'm appreciative of you, man. It's awesome to see you. I don't say the word grow up. Don't take it that way, but it's awesome to see you kind of going through the process and to where you're at right now, man. It's pretty neat.
Grow up's a good term. There's a lot of that that's happened since I first came into the program back in 2013. You came in a year earlier in 2012, I believe.
Yes. Yep. That's right.
And well, I'd be curious. As 18-year-old Kluver was a different guy, and I think that's a good thing. We need to change and grow over time, and mature. They say that for guys, the brain doesn't fully develop until 25. At 30, physically, I'm still trying to prove that I'm not at my peak yet.
Don't say try. There's no trying. You're actually not. There you go.
I'm trying to prove the physical development still has a lot of potential as well. But I'd be curious, in a selfish way to start this podcast, what you remember of me coming into the program, because that would actually be a wild. Because admittedly, and I've talked about it on the show, I was immature. Funny that I now do podcasting for a living. I talked a lot. I talked more than I should have. It took me a while to understand the way of the Iowa way. And so I'd love to know from a coaching perspective. It's been a decade.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's nothing. I have nothing negative. Listen, what was cool was you were kind of one of those know-it-all specialist kids, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's what it is. I always remember you had really good squat depth. I mean, you got low in your squat.
Hey, let's go. That's impressionable. Coach, you've never met a guy that moved better than me. Still to this day.
I tell you what, I think you were a baby face. You were the baby face guy, and but you stuck with it. I think that's the cool thing was, even though like at 18 years old, right? And this, you go from being at home with your family, your parents, and at 18 years old, especially to be a young male, you're growing into you a little bit, and when you come into that world, especially into that weight room, into that culture, and, you got to prove who the hell you are every day, not just to other people, but to yourself, and with that comes a little bit of humility, you know what I'm saying? So I think you got to humble a little bit sometimes, but, you had the resilience to go through it.
It comes with a lot of humility. It's the same stuff that you guys preached. And I love that you did. Freshmen would come in. It doesn't matter if it was now they get a few 5 stars over there every once in a while. Back 12, 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot of 5 stars coming in the building. Our class notoriously was like one of the worst KF recruiting classes in history. But yeah, I think looking back, it probably was a time where, whether you admit it or not, everybody's insecure about who they are, and like you're a big fish from a small pond stepping into a Division I football program, and like you do have to prove yourself somehow. Yeah. And I think I probably just did that in the wrong way, trying to like put up a facade that I actually did know what I was doing. You step in there with guys like Drake or some of those other specimens that walk in as 18-year-olds, they're already developed. I was like a pudgy kid who like never had a real strength conditioning program before we got to Iowa City. I was just fake it till you make it, honestly, for a couple years there.
Oh, shoot, look at you now. You gotta give yourself a little bit of credit now. Look at you now, man.
Well, it only took 12 years. We got here. I forgot to do the proper intro. For those that haven't figured it out already, Coach Joel Welsh, one of our assistants during our time in Iowa City. He's since moved on, had a stop along the way at Delaware State. I want to go through all of it. He's now at Central Michigan. Yep. And I, from what I can tell, promotion and title just earlier this spring now to associate AD. So now you've got all the responsibilities.
Easy.
What does that entail? Is that like a title thing, or is there actually more responsibility to that?
You know what? It's actually, what's cool about our profession, right, is there's different, I think, there's different aspects to it. I think when you're first into the profession for the first time, you're an intern, you go for those, gradual progressions, like I said, but intern, you're trying to get a GA spot, first time assistant, is it football, is it basketball, is it Olympic? And you kind of go for all these progressions in your career. And that's for college. It's not saying it's for private sector or for the case may be professional ranks, whatever it is. But in athletics and collegiate, there's administrative as well. So what I've come in this boat I'm in right now is my title is I'm responsible for just basically creating more synergy between strength conditioning, sport medicine, mental health, nutrition, all aspects of betterment of student athlete. Because I think when you talk about, and like yourself, putting in our terms, right, and growing up, you're 18 years old, you come into the system, and by 22, you're a completely different person, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritual, and all aspects. And that's our job every single day. I mean, it's our job to make sure we're maximizing these young people's potential, but also are we giving them the right resources to allow them to do that, and not just letting it happen, but happening at a high level of urgency, right? So I think that's what my job is making sure we're strategizing the right way and we're getting things done.
And the head strength coach has not just the head guy, but the assistant staff as well. You guys have sort of a unique spot where nobody gets more time with the athletes than you guys, really. I mean, you guys, especially in the off season. I think the fans, the listeners of this show, we've tried to communicate it before, but like the ratio of time you get to be with your assistant, position coaches versus with the strength conditioning staff, it's drastic.
Well,
You guys have hands on a lot.
I think when you look into, there's a reason why we all became strength coaches, right? And one of those things, I think you ask any strength coach, any level, Division III, high school, Division II, there is a desire to invest in a person all the time. And what I mean by that is we're going to get so much time with these young people all year round. Like, number one, like, we are a complete reflection of our coaching staffs, the work that they do. And we also have a job as well. And our job is to help develop these young people, so when it's time for them to perform, whether on the field or whether on the court, that they're ready to go in all facets, not just physically, but again, mentally, right, emotionally, in all aspects. So I think every strength conditioning coach, deep down inside, wants to invest themselves deeply into a person and wants to see the best of them. And I think the beautiful thing about a strength conditioning coach is you get to see the kids not just at their highs, you see them at their lows, you see them through it all,
Yeah.
So I think it's one thing you can never take for granted, the amount of time that we're able to spend with them, because on top of that, the only other people that spend as much time with student athletes is probably academic services, right? In terms of those support people outside that network from the coaches. So it's something you can't take lightly. Absolutely not.
Is that personal investment into young people something? I mean, obviously at one point you were a young person yourself.
Yeah.
You grew up in the Bronx, right?
Yes, sir.
What was your upbringing like? And was there something that you look back on now that you think sort of pushed you in this direction of helping people and then more specifically in the strength conditioning field? Or when did that interest sort of spark?
Oh gosh, that's a great question, Kluver. That's a damn good question. I think the big picture is a why, right? Like what got you into, what's the why behind everything?
Yeah.
So I grew up in Bronx, New York, born and raised, diehard Yankee fan. Okay, born and raised.
Still a Yankee fan?
Well, it's in your blood, man. It's
Okay.
in your blood. You don't lose it.
Okay.
Derek Jeter was the guy. Like, I was a hero growing up.
He's the GOAT.
He's the Jeets, man. I mean, Capitan, all that jazz. And not to kind of go off topic, but
no, please do.
I remember, my mother used to take me to Yankee games when I was, when I could walk, right?
Yeah.
And this is when the Yankees were not that good. This is back like, early 90s, 90, 91, you're scratching. But, Don Mattingly was the captain. Don Mattingly was the dude. And I remember when we were able to go to the Yankee games, the price was so cheap. You get good bleachers, you get a good hot dog, you get a Pepsi. You're living the life. You're 5 years old, you're living the life. And I never forget, to this day, Kluver, I still remember like the 1995 ALDS between the Yankees and the Mariners. and watching the Yankees lose. And that was like Don Mattingly's last year. And it's still, to this day, I still get emotional. I can't watch that game.
It hurts you, huh?
It hurts, man. It's like, I remember as a kid, like, oh my God. But then 96 and all those guys, Bernie Williams, Posada, Andy Pettitte, they're
Legends.
Legends. But you know what the cool thing is all those guys this is old school baseball stuff in terms of those are farm system developed dudes. So I'm answering your question here in a second, but they were farm system. They all came up in the farm system in the Yankees deal. You add in like a Tino Martinez from the Mariners at first base. You got Paul O'Neill, who's just like just a freaking possessed guy out there. So it's like you had all this perfect blend of these personalities. And I think they just exhibited what we were in New York at the time, right? But anyway, long story short, yes, diehard Yankee fan to this day. But I'll tell you this, dude, okay? I grew up in the Bronx, New York, born and raised, single-parent household. The two people that raised me, okay, were my mother and my grandmother, God rest their souls. And they understood how to raise a young man in terms of being tough. When you walk out that door every single day, there are certain characteristics and traits that you're going to have. Keep your head up high, do your job. Again, you're young, but do things a certain way.
You were in the city too. It's a little different than Solon, Iowa, or something like that.
No, but the cool thing is, at the end of the day, it's life. Every day you're dealing with life, right? Yeah. And the cool thing was, I was really fortunate to have people invest in me. Okay, I was really fortunate that people that took the time, whether to coach me or whatever the case may be, and it left a lasting impression on me. And I think the older I became, there was this desire to help and desire to invest in young people, because some of the things that I did have or did not have, I think you sit back and you're fortunate and you reflect, but those things really helped me in time. That why starts getting created. So I think I kind of knew at a really early age what I wanted to do. I kind of told myself what I did not want to do. My mother worked a 9-to-5 job every single day, and she did not because she loved it. She did because she had to do it.
Yeah.
And I think when you see that level of sacrifice, especially from, when you're a kid and you don't sit back and maybe, like you said, like 30 years old, you may sit back and actually realize it as you become older, more mature. You see the sacrifices that the people that are around you that care about you the most that they make. And you call them parents or mentors, but you have an obligation to fulfill that prophecy or whatever the case may be that they thought that you're going to be. You have an obligation to be that person. So I knew I wanted to help others. I knew I wanted to get into some type of coaching or something to that aspect. But I started finding the weight room at an early age.
I was going to say, when did Joel Welsh start lifting?
I tell you when it hit me. It hit me when it was funny. I was talking to someone about this earlier. I was on my middle school basketball team. Okay, this is kind of put things in perspective. Middle school basketball team, and we're playing a game, and the school we're going against, freaking dudes are huge, right? And guys going into the paint. I'm just standing there like 95 pounds, like and elbows me in the chest. Kluver, my chest was sore for like a month.
Oh.
And I said, okay, this is not going to happen again. So I went to, at the time, this place called Modell's. Go to Modell's. I buy some dumbbells. Went to Miami, I buy some dumbbells. And I just got dumbbells, cans in the kitchen, peanut butter. I'm just like in the mirror trying to
come on.
But it was an outlet. I'm going to tell you this right now, man. For me, it was a huge outlet. It was a way for me to kind of focus my energy. Because, at that age, you get all this energy all over the place, but it was a way for me to focus on that energy and put it to something, whether it was sports or whether to me lifting. And I just found this love in working out. And when I was in high school, you'll love this, man. So you got your high school, weight room, you got your deal that you're doing there. But the best times that I had was in high school is when me and a couple of my buddies, there was a gym called Powerhouse Gym in the Bronx, New York, okay? And one of the biggest things that used to influence me when I was a young person coming up was when you walked in the Powerhouse Gym, okay? In gritty, old weights.
Oh, yeah.
Walls probably bad as this, but you look on those walls, right? And you have all these photos. Mr. Olympia, you got Ronnie Coleman, you got
Arnold.
Jay Cutler, you got Victor Martinez, Flex Wheeler.
Dexter on. You're talking my language now.
And you walk into this place, right? And you're like a little scrawny, little tidbit kid, right? Like he's
Yeah,
like, yo,
because I want to set the stage. And not to, I don't want to slight you, but you're not, me and you both, we're not big guys.
no, we're not, no, heck no, no.
How tall are you, coach?
I'm like 5'8.5" on a good
Yeah.
day, right? So
I'm like 5'10", and I'm like 5'10" and a half when after on the inversion table on pro day, like,
there you
please
go, get
God,
stretched out.
give
No,
me another inch.
but
Coach Morgan used to tell me, man, we should just stretch you out a little more. I'd be like,
there you
coach,
go.
I can't,
So
I can't get any taller, brother.
no, but that's the beauty of it, right? So you go into it and you start seeing those things. And you get schooled up by the old guys in there. And the guys tell you, like, nah, young man, you don't do it like that. You do it like this. And there's a certain code. There's an unspoken thing, in those weight rooms of how do you go about your work, and you keep things humble. You train hard, and so at a really early age, be in those environments, and you kind of figure stuff out a little bit, and it just becomes addicting, man. And that lifestyle, and you try to live a path of a healthy lifestyle and connecting those dots. But I think just the love of going into the weight room, I think it's also a time where you can just be you and be vulnerable. And you have to check your ego, right? Because when you walk into that weight room, you see guys who are ginormous, and you better put your ego in check now. And it's important that you learn that at an early age. So I think those characteristics and traits. So to kind of answer your question, I know it's kind of long-winded,
Oh, it's good.
but those were the things that kind of got me into it. So it's kind of a perfect storm, with the coaching and the weight room stuff just kind of married. I kind of put two and two together. But I tell you this, Kluver, it was by knowing what I did not want to do and having to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I didn't see myself at a desk, all day growing up behind a cubicle. I didn't want that. So I wanted to live and act. Because I tell you what, man, when I was in college, I gave myself, I literally, to this day, I don't forget, I had in my room, I had the application to be a firefighter. Like I was like, all right, this coaching thing doesn't work out. You're going to sign up, you're going to do the fire department stuff and do that. So it was kind of like, all right, you're going to go all in on this or not. Like you're going to make a decision. So just really fortunate,
You would have been a hell of a firefighter.
Not, you know what? I respect the hell that those men and women do every single day on a daily basis in their lives out there. And there's a when you live that type of lifestyle, we're fortunate and appreciative to have people like that to do that.
Similar in a way, a job of service there. Especially, especially for, at the time, if you consider your situation, how the fire department was so integral in New York in the early 2000s. Certainly not a glorious job, but I don't think there's anything more well respected than that. You talking about it's so mimicked, and probably not just me, but so many guys who find that passion in the weight room. It's like, yeah, I lift with my team at school, but then I do some stuff by myself I remember me and my brothers used to go to the YMCA, and that's where I still have the notebook from 2009.
There you go.
Which is to this day, the first example of me programming for myself.
Yeah.
And coach, I benched 3 times a week. It was awesome.
There you go.
Dude, we put like 70 pounds on my bench in one summer. I'll never do it again. But it was like, there's some sense of, you're finding yourself, I think for me, it was like, I stopped growing like freshman year. Yeah. And I knew that I couldn't control that. But what I could control was how much more I worked out than other guys and what I put into the weight room and the extra time that I put in. And so I feel that all that kind of came rushing back as you described that. And I didn't know you were such a baseball guy.
Oh, dude, growing up, Yanks, man, all the way, dude. So that was part of my childhood. The memories that you remember coming up, and we were really fortunate. You talk about the Yankees back then, man. It's so different nowadays, right? You buy this guy, you go on there, Back then, when you had farm, like those guys were pinstripe blue. They were in the farm system development. I could probably, to this day, still remember like the whole like 96 roster, like Grant Wade, John Wetland. I remember Mariano Rivera. He wasn't even the closer yet. He was a setup man. John Wetland. Those are Jimmy Lawrence. You remember this stuff, right? But
yeah. I could tell that's your childhood. We never had this conversation before. It's funny. I wish you would have been around for one more year then, because we played in Yankee Stadium.
I am, yeah, I remember that. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. How was that for you guys in
I mean,
terms of
it was the new Yankee Stadium, I'm pretty sure, because they
Yep,
had just rebuilt it. So it wasn't like it didn't have like all the tradition and like it wasn't the exact same. But I'll
yep.
tell you what, you get to walk through it the day before. The day of the game was terrible. It rained. It was like it
That's awesome. That's awesome.
it was like a skating rink. No one like
Oh,
even our running backs couldn't like get a foot. It was horrible. We won. It was the first bowl game. You were there for the struggles of that postseason from 13, 14, 15, 16. We could not get over the hump in the postseason. And we finally did in 17. Not that it was some crazy great game. We beat Boston College. It was good to go out on a win for our career. But man, playing in Yankee Stadium was it was cool. It was like just to this day. The other day, we're like, I mean, at least we got to play in Yankee
yeah.
Stadium. Like, who plays a football game there? Just one of the cool experiences that the Division I opportunity at Iowa brought to us. So I'm curious then, coming back to your role now,
Yep.
what teams are you directly involved with? Because you're a football guy, but
Mhm.
do you also program or have control of other sports teams?
No, so right now my job is basically to put it all together.
Okay, so you're not even in.
No,
Okay,
right,
okay,
my job right now with my role now, it is how can we impact in so many different facets, you
wow,
know? So, I mean, when you have a team, man, there's an investment like that. There's a huge investment because you're pouring yourself into it. So, but I think the cool thing is I'm able to get around so many different teams,
yeah,
so I'm able to get around and watch and go to practices and watch them train. So in a way, you kind of are a part of all these
sure,
teams. But the cool thing is like what there are things that I think when you're on the floor and you're coaching, you're impacting in one way. And you're not able to help maybe in a different way. Where number one, I already done it at this stage, but now can I grow and get better in a different area to help impact these young people? So
yeah.
I think it's probably more the strategizing, the alignment, getting certain resources, all that aspect, which is, you know, it's awesome when it starts to come together.
Mm,
Everything works in phases,
yeah.
and I think when you like anything, when you put together a program, like same thing like when you program designing, like it comes in phases. Like I think the beautiful thing, and I'll use football as an example. Football, if we said, hey, this is what's happening in a year, we understand year has different categories, right? You have winter off season, that's a phase, check. Then you go time off, spring break. Then you talk about what's next, bang, spring ball, okay, done. Then you have that post spring ball time. Then after that, you got your time off, boom. Then you go into summer training. Then you got your camp. Then you got your season. So it's interesting. Like everything works in phases. So when you put together anything, any plan, it's in the same mentality. It's just in phases.
I have to imagine from your perspective now, being the guy, like you're kind of the perfect guy for a role like you're in now because you've been on the coaching side of it,
Yep.
where in your day to day, you're like, damn, it would be nice if we had this.
Yeah.
Like
No.
it would be great if we could work together with the medical team like this or the nutrition like and now you have the ability to impact that decision making at a higher level to where
Correct.
you know what works best or what would work better. And
Yeah.
and and I'm sure that when you were a assistant coach at Iowa and then a head coach or a head strength coach for Delaware State and then
Yep.
CMU, there were times where you're like, I don't have the ability to get this done. I can run it up the chain, but now you sort of have maybe more of that power. Is that right or no?
No, I think every stop along the way, every place that you have a certain value. Okay. And every role, like when you're a graduate assistant, like this is your job. Like this is your nitpick. Like here's a GA, you're sink or swim, elevate the staff. How can I help make your job easier? You're doing that, just like an intern. Like if you're an intern, these are my roles and
Make the
responsibilities.
coffee, set up the equipment. Yeah.
I tell you, I think the intern stuff to this day, dude, I'm telling you now, I've done probably about 3 internships in my career. And every particular internship taught me something else.
Mhm.
And I think what it teaches you is whether or not you want to do this as a career. I think that's first and foremost. And I think the intern stuff, it's so much of the investment with the different places. And my biggest recommendation to any young person coming out who wants to do strength conditioning, intern everywhere. Like in terms of what I mean by that is Just don't maybe intern at a big school, intern at a small school, intern at a high school. Like I used to work at a high school for about 6 months. God, it was about 15 years ago. And I tell you, right, there's so much I learned from there. Like you're teaching high school kids and et cetera. I've been really fortunate to coach at Division 3, Division 2, high school. I mean, I kind of seen it. And end of the day, kids are kids,
Yeah.
right? But you learn, you take a tidbit from each stop. But to answer your question, I think your role is different as an assistant. It's your job to understand what the system is, um, be a voice of what that system is, push that system, but most importantly, be an advocate for the program every single day. You have a job to do. When I walked into Delaware State, because you had mentioned that, my role completely changed. Like my role was no longer as an assistant. The mentality had to change. And I think one of the biggest things, I'm telling you now, Coach Doyle is a father figure to me. Okay. I talk to that man weekly. And
You and me
the
both.
amount of, the amount of love I have for that man and for Coach Braithwaite and what they've both been to me, not just as like mentors, but as father figures and men, because when you sit here, I'm sitting here late 30s, married, 3 kids, and you talk about the two probably the best examples of how to do it as husbands and as fathers, along with Coach Ferentz and those 3 men, being a young assistant coming up in the game, in this profession, you're trying to figure out how to do this and how to, you're young, man. You're trying to figure out how am I going to be a coach and have, be a dad, but then you look, boom, to your left is Coach Doyle, boom, to your right, Coach Braithwaite, boom, upstairs, Coach Ferentz. It's like, okay, this is going to be pretty easy.
When you're young, I love this is the ultimate Coach Ferentz quote. It's like you don't know shit about shit. Okay.
We're slappies, dude. We're trying to figure this out. But when you have examples like that every single day, and I was like, okay, this is how you got to do it. It puts things in perspective. And so when I went to Delaware State, you got to, number one, go back to those roots. You got to understand the things like now you have to implement the things that you saw, but now you're going to put your money where your mouth is. So your name is on that mailbox now. It's no longer like, no, this is your name. This is your reputation. This is so type of people you have working with you. What type of program do you want? How do you instill that culture? All that. So my role, my value had changed because I know I was no longer an assistant. I was now the figurehead of a program. So now when people think of strength conditioning, it's not just strength conditioning, it's coach, ... You know what I'm saying? So there's a way there's a way to do the job. And with that is you got to be extremely conscious of how you carry yourself every single day. How do you speak? How you converse with student athletes? How you speak with coaches? But most importantly, how do you do your job? Are you doing what you're preaching, or is it on both ends? I mean, are you putting the work in to do the job right? There's no cheat code to this profession or any work, right? Like it takes time. If you want success, you're going to have to put in a lot of time to do things the right way. So I think when I got to Delaware State, I tell you right now, dude, Delaware State to this day, like I've learned so much, and I attribute so much to that program, to that institution, because it forced me to get out of my comfort zone, to grow. I mean, the relationships that I had with those student athletes to this day, we still have now. It's funny because you don't have the same resources, right? And it can be staffing, it can be whatever it is, but that's the fun part. You're making it work.
Yeah.
And it's like that every single day. And at the time, myself and a great friend of mine, Tyler Kitzman, who was an intern in Iowa with us. He interned for us, and you probably remember him, but he interned twice for us at Iowa. And when I got to Delaware State, he was with me. It was just me and him every single day. And, for 3 years, dude, we had 18 teams. He had 9 teams. I had 9 teams. We did football together. Once football was done, bang, he did his teams. I did my teams. And we looked at each other at the end of the day, and we could depend on each other.
That's crazy.
I think the end of the day, he never missed a day of work. I never missed a day of work. And there was such a dependability, a sense of trust. But most importantly, he's a phenomenal human being, husband, father, same thing. So you have that type of person who's by your side, who's then presenting those characteristics to those young people every single day. This getting those kids better. Because ultimately, you want like the best qualities of your people to rub off on those student athletes.
Yeah.
Right. Because, it's the old school, Johnny Parker quote, I don't coach weights, I coach people. So you have to be very conscious of what are you preaching? It's not just X's and O's, program design. listen, there's a bunch of smart people out there. We all get it. You can quote Rashansky, Zatorsky, you can do all that stuff. That's great. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to connect with these people and get done what you need to get done, not just at a decent level, but at a high level. And then you got to teach them how to do it consistently day after day. That's teaching. And we're teachers. Like, we are teaching these young people every single day. Not like, NFL is one avenue, but I'm not going to sell the NFL or the NBA or the MLB. We're going to sell them to be really good people in the community. We're going to sell them on how to be really good people, period. Their parents did a great job with them. Now parents dropped them off with us. Now we're going to freaking extend this for the next 4 or 5 years, or forever, how long we have them for. No, and there's nothing easy about that. And I think one thing that hit me is when I was an assistant in Iowa, Kluver, I think, as an assistant, I think we're probably like a brother to you guys, right? Like, we're like a little bit of the older brother, right? We're like, yeah, we got you, man. Yeah, come on. Let's go, dude. Like, cut the BS. Like, we'll give you stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I got to Delaware State, it was like, you ain't the brother no more. You're maybe more, you're like the crazy uncle, right? Like, doesn't get invited to cookouts. Like, you're that. But then what starts to really happen is you go through this transition.
Yeah.
And then you're seen more as a father figure. And I think to a lot of young men or young women, and they have parents. Some have 2 parents, some have 1 parent, whatever the case is. But I think to a lot of young people, you become a father figure to a lot of them. And with that, it happens because of the fanatical relationships that you have to build with them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing easy about that. So.
No, there isn't. And I never, at one point it was a potential desire of mine to maybe explore the college strength conditioning. Potential, like, hey, do I want to open up my own gym? But coaching strength conditioning or fitness or whatever exercise. It was always a thing for me, and I realized pretty quickly, like, oh, there's 10 different ways to run a guy through a progression here and get him stronger. Like, I can make your squat bigger, but like the impact on you as a person, that's a lot harder. And that's where like the separation of good to great coaches are. It's like a good coach can get you stronger and faster. A great coach gets you stronger and faster and makes you a better person and a future better husband, father, like all those things.
Let me ask you a question. You have 2 kids now, right?
I do. Yeah.
God bless. Congratulations. Okay?
Thank you.
That's awesome, man. I'm gonna tell you this. This is when it hit me. Okay. Coaching changed for me, and I think a lot of coaches can say the same thing too. Coaching changed for me when I became a parent. It hit me like coaching hit me differently. And I think as a coach, you go for these phases. So when you first come into it, you want to be liked, right? You want to be liked. You want to like, But then it hit me when I had my first one. And when he was born, and you see this look in their eye, right? And it hit me one day in a lift group where I saw a young man look at me a certain way. I'm like, God, man, like that's the same look my son has. And it hit me like, geez, like this is what I haven't been able to connect this dot. It's such like true being his friend. I ain't your friend, dude. Like, because when you're your friend, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Like, no, like you need to hear the truth.
Yeah.
So you go for this phase as a coach, and that's where Delaware State like really helped that, because it went from, okay, you're not the assistant no more, trying to be, it's not a light contest. No, like I have a job. My job is to pour myself into you and see you maximize your potential. And there's nothing easy about that. Yep. So I started seeing my kids, my own kids and them, in which, okay, things are going to change now, because now, no, we're going to do it this way. It has to happen. So, right, you go into this kind of parent mode. So
that's powerful. Yeah.
It hits you. But I think to me personally, that's when coaching changed for me, is when, because listen, like kids, and I'm talking about your own personal kids, your personal kids will expose you as a person. They will force you to see your weaknesses. They will force you to see your insufficiencies. They show a lot of great things out of you. But I think it kind of forces you to look in the mirror every single day and say, wow, I need to get better at A, B, C, D, E.
Yes.
Chris Rock said it perfectly, right? Chris Rock said, when you're a parent, you look yourself in the mirror every single day and you tell yourself, you don't matter, right? Like, F you, like you don't matter. And that's the reality, because when you become a parent, it's not about you anymore. at all. It's about those kids. It's about making sure, they're working towards that path.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give my kids everything. It doesn't work like that. It's about putting them on the path and providing those things that they need to be successful. And we used to tell, young recruits this all the time. To parent, and I said specifically to parents, there's only two things we can give your child: expectations and belief. That's it. And what we mean by that is this: they're going to have expectations. They got to do this way, like this, consistently, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every day. But with that comes a belief in them. We believe in them. We believe they can do this. We believe that they can be something that they don't even see themselves yet. And with that comes, we got their arm around them. We're going to help them. We got your back. So I think when you sit there and you talk to young people, whoever it is, like clientele, like even if you're a personal trainer, whatever the case is, like if I have a client, here are the expectations, and I'm going to be there by your side to go get this done. And now the trick is, can you do that every single day?
Yeah.
And then can you do that when you got your own personal stuff at home going on? But that's the professional side, right? That's where we all have to grow and learn into, where professionally, when you leave that house or your home, that stuff is done. And the minute you walk into that workforce, it's about work. But guess what? When you leave work, we have to learn how to do what? Shut it off. Right. And that's hard, man. And that's the hard part, is how do you not bring work home? How you don't bring home to work?
Yeah.
That's the balance. I think that all of us, not just in this profession, but any profession that's a career, how do we do that every single day? That's hard. So that's why I say, like, when you talk to these young people, when you invest in them, can you be that person every single day? Can you do it? Not just because, I can demand them to do it. That's great. Anyone can do that. But can I do that for myself?
Yeah.
So that's hard, man. That's consistency. That's practicing what you're preaching. It's difficult. That's hard.
First of all, you had me fired the fuck up as I listened to you. And we had a phone call the other day, and when I heard your voice in a different way, I thought I was like, damn, it's like Coach Welsh. He's going to spot me on this 85 for 5 back squat here.
It's a day. You say 85, we're rolling, man.
Man.
The only thing worse, if you're going to 90, it's you're tapping into somebody else.
Oh God.
If it's 90, I'm not even talking to you. I'm just looking at you.
Oh yeah. I'm going to come back to that, but because of the nature of the show, I got to pay the bills real quick. As everyone watching the YouTube can see, the Big Grove Brewery is a sponsor of the show this season. And man, I don't even know if the Iowa City Big Grove was around before you got out of there, Coach. But Big Grove Brewery is the official craft brewery of the Iowa Hawkeyes, the official party headquarters of the Iowa Hawkeyes. So this fall, you can head out to Big Grove, Iowa City, Solon, new location in Omaha, Cedar Rapids, and Des Moines. And you can catch the Hawk games from there all season long. Try out their Easy Eddie, the official craft beer of the Hawkeyes. I don't know how they did it, but they're the official everything of the Iowa Hawkeyes. So shout out to Big Grove for sponsoring the show this season, allowing me to have cool conversations like this. Coach, you mentioned how it feels like you guys were our brother. And man, I can't describe it any other way. I haven't stayed in touch. I plan to now, because this conversation is too good. I haven't stayed in touch with you as much as I have Coach Lima or Coach DeMarco. But man, it feels like, you know, what's crazy is when we were, you guys were coaching us.
Yep.
As students, I'm 21. I'm so stupid. It felt like you were 15 years older than me. It wasn't because you looked old or you were old or it was simply because of the dynamic of how much I respected you. I felt like you got, like, I didn't know DeMarco was 3 years older than me.
He was young, man. He was young.
When I figured that out, I was like mind blown, and I only figured that out like 3 years ago. So, it is that brotherly dynamic of like the brother that you really respect, and when they say something, you listen. You guys were so good about communicating that shit was important, and we needed to get stuff done, but we could have fun, and there could still be a fun relationship. And then Doyle was that father figure. Like I tell anybody to this day, any maturity or good thing that has come out of my life, all the way into like now me being a parent, those not only those summer conditioning workouts, but all of the lessons that Coach Doyle and you guys would just hammer all the time. That I literally am a product of those 4 or 5 years in Iowa City. Like that is who shaped me today, and it's so important.
It's it's you talk about like how well you thought we communicated or how we carry like you thought we were older. It starts from the top.
Yeah.
Like you sit there as an assistant. I go back. I sit there as an intern, okay, and you sit there and your job is to, you when you're an intern, your job is to move around, do stuff, get things done. But your job ultimately is to make another person's job easier. That's your job. Like check your ego. Like it's not rocket science. Like you have a job to do, go do it. And I think sometimes some guys figure it out sooner than others, but you're growing, you're learning how to do the job a certain way. But when you're sitting there and you got Coach Doyle and Coach Braithwaite, and you got these two men in that room, and they're carrying themselves a certain particular way, you're watching, and then you're going to emulate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're watching two professionals do it a certain way in their careers and how they attain success with their careers. So it always starts from the top. It starts from those people, and I never forget. To this day, when I was an intern and Coach Ferris walks in the weight room, introducing himself, like, "Oh, Coach Ferris," but again, it's just those little things and the type of character that these men are. Like I said, so my time in Iowa was so special because, yeah, I was at Iowa football. That's awesome, but it was the people that we were around, and we had such good dudes in that locker room. I mean, to this day, though, I think the off season that I remember the most that stands out to me is probably the 2013 off season.
Yeah.
Because the previous year we were 4-8, right? And I kind of go backwards in this. I remember it. We were 4-8, and we lost to Central Michigan in 2012. That's crazy how it looks like. And I remember going to the off season, and we had like our we're going into it, and X's and O's, and it was so much fun. And it was fun because guys trained hard. But that was the thing, guys believed in it. And what was awesome about that particular offseason was just that following year, we won with the same dudes, right? And I think that's the beauty of what this is all about, is seeing guys go through a time, adversity, right? Which is real, which everyone has to go through. You can't hide away from it, but we had to embrace it. And then you have to embrace it, then you have to do something about it. And when you're going to work every single day, you have people that are holding a standard a certain way. It's your job to be part of that standard. And there are things you got to do. You got to be detail oriented. You got to be on top of your stuff. If you're responsible for this as an assistant, then you need to own that, whatever it is. And I think that's part of playing your part, right? Because you might not understand it as an assistant, but when you sit back, every person's part, just like being on the team, helps create the bigger goal and job. So I think that's the beauty to how things work, man. And, seeing that resilience, seeing that grit, seeing guys figure it out, seeing guys go for that process, and then growing from where they were a year ago. That's what makes this thing so awesome, man. It's so cool.
We came in that 2013 year, so I wasn't there for the full off season, but it was I could feel that.
Oh, man.
And even more so in that 15 year that we had all that success. Yep. I was thinking about that the other day about how process oriented we were.
Yep.
And believing that when you commit to the process and everybody is committed to their role.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's something that has to start at the top, because if your role isn't demonstrated to be valuable, then why would you be committed to it? But everybody was committed to it. I still tell this story. Miguel Racinos.
Miguel, yeah, man. Great kid.
Just the nerdiest guy from Mason City, Iowa. Like, not going to compete with anybody on a lift for anything, but hey, went and worked his ass off
every day.
And, was a second year in that 2015 season, and Drew Watt was his team captain in the offseason.
Yeah.
And Miguel was in tears one day because he missed a body weight or something. Yep. But that's how important it was to him. All the way down from the top, he understood the importance of the body weight means this. It means our team gets points. It means our team's doing better. It means the team as a whole is doing better. Like it was really an example of like that top-down mentality that had permeated and taken hold. I think that's why we were pretty successful in 2000.
You know what's special, and you don't probably. I think again, as time goes, you reflect. And I think if someone was to tell you for 4 or 5 years, you were going to be the absolute best version of yourself, right, for 4 or 5 years. Like, cool, yeah, I want to do that, and you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to invest this, you got to sacrifice that. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you sit back now, you realize those 4 or 5 years of your life, you can grow so
Oh,
many different ways, right? But then you sit there now, and I think the thing that everyone that's done it, that's played a sport, whatever, the thing that you miss now is probably those 15 minutes after a game.
mm.
That feeling of being in the locker room, that feeling of what all that work and what it paid off and how it feels. And guess what? You're ready to go and do it all over again. And every single day you're chasing those 15 minutes.
It's enough juice for the entire year.
You know what I'm saying? And it's I think that's part of why we do what we do every single day. That's what makes us competitors. What makes you guys competitors, and you guys compete, and you guys do it because you're just chasing that feeling. And I think as you become older, it's like, man, shoot, man. That's why a lot of guys go into coaching. It's why athletes got to go into team build stuff because how many times guys get out of it or gals get out of it. It's like, man, it's not the same
Where do
because
you get that feeling anymore?
let that film because now it's not about the team. It's about them individually. Clock in at 9, leave at 5, and it's there's a purpose to it, right? So I think when you're in coaching and you're in those locker rooms, it's so much about the team, and I think media doesn't do enough about it and talks about it nowadays. But that's what this thing's about, man.
We're trying over here,
right?
at
But
this
it's really about seeing on all levels, man. It's seeing people figure it out and do hard stuff. But as much as Miguel, right now, example, Miguel was phenomenal. Like the two people you just mentioned, Miguel and Drew, I mean, geez, like Miguel was your quintessential. He's going to do everything possible to, do it for his teammates, but for himself. But here's Drew Watt, who's now mentoring the young guy and taking investment in him and holding the guy accountable because he holds himself accountable. Life comes full circle. Right, because when Drew came in, who were the guys? That's the beauty to it, right? Remember Louis Tricapasat, you had all these guys that were, that's what this thing's about, right? This guy's growing, figuring it out, time over time, but then you're giving back by mentoring a young dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty powerful, right? But in the same sense, guess what? You're preparing yourself for fatherhood. you're preparing yourself, you don't even realize it, man. And that's the beauty to athletics, but just, there's nothing better than this, man.
I want to touch on something that I'm really curious about. And that is in 2020, not only did the COVID stuff happen, but all the Doyle stuff happened, right?
Okay.
And we've hashed that out on this show. I mean, there's no bigger fans than Coach Doyle around here than us.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious from your perspective as a former guy who had then moved on.
Yep.
And you've now taken the head of a different program. Mm-hmm. Was there curiosity about that? And did you feel some sort of like I had are these players now going to question me because I came from this program? Did anybody come to you and be like, hey, what was it like at Iowa? Did that cause any curiosity like that or?
No, no. I think at the end of the day, I think for to kind of go back, there's a lot in that question. I think first and foremost, again, Coach Doyle's a father figure to me.
Yeah.
So, that's the first person I'm calling up. I'm here. I got your back, like that aspect. Okay. And I think from the second standpoint, when you talk about like, do the kids question you? No, because at the end of the day, I think people like there's the relationship that you have with your student athletes already. Yeah. So nothing changes that. It's just this relationship that we have. This is what we're going to do. We're doing our work. So I never had that intertwinement from that standpoint. That if that's answering your question correctly, never had that. No.
Yeah, it was a weird. Anyone who was there during that time, us specifically, it was like when that happened, it was like, Jesus Christ, we started a podcast and now everybody expects us to talk about this, right? And as a former player standpoint, now it was like, now we're on our heels because we have our own experiences. Everybody had their own experiences, and that's part of that whole situation. Why it came to be, and it was like, it was like now we feel like we have to defend something that doesn't need defending. It was a weird moment in time. And I just wondered, as a former guy on the staff, it was like, it had to be a weird moment for you too, text messages, conversations, calls. It was just a weird all around thing. And I was curious to know if any of your players at the time were like, "Hey, what's going on over there?"
Yeah. I think,
Yeah,
I think, yeah, I think when you're when you're at somewhere else, you're in a different school. Like you got your own stuff you're doing.
yeah,
Like
you're focused on your own shit.
you have a different mission. Like,
Sure.
well, I think each thing. I think, yeah, you look at stuff, you watch stuff, but I think end of the day, like you guys are in your own.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say because you're in your own world. You
I
know what I'm
suppose
saying?
that's true. For us, we still at the time and
That's the
still
world. Yeah,
now, we're still in the Iowa world. Whereas
yeah.
they probably didn't give a shit about that. You're probably right. Because when you are on the inside, you don't. It's like it's crazy the walls that you have up. It's like we're
Yeah.
focused on our own mission and that's it.
Oh, I
Um,
mean, it's you say that, but like you say, your own mission. That's kind of the go between like work and home and all of that. Like it's you have your tunnel vision, but also you have to not become so totally tunnel vision you forget what's on the outside of
sure,
the too.
sure. I'm curious. Any stop along the way? Who are some of the most impressive athletes that you've coached?
Oh man, oh gosh. Okay, all right. Ooh,
I
that's a
want to
good
hear.
one.
I want to hear like some little niche name from Delaware State, some guy that just ran like a 4.1 or
You
something like
know,
that.
I'm gonna say this, and this first and foremost, I think I'm going to say this. You learn as coaches. I think we learn more from these individuals than we can teach them.
Mm,
Okay. And I've always been a firm believer that the best ones leave breadcrumbs behind. The best ones leave something. And you have to look at those traits. Like here, and I'll speak at Central Michigan. Like we had an individual who his name's Khalil Pimpleton. Okay. He was a transfer kid from Virginia Tech, came here, has something to prove. He's a Muskegon, Michigan dude. I have never in my life seen someone with his work ethic. It's the drive, the habits, how they mentored others, how they demanded the best from others because they demanded the best of themselves. He wound up getting picked up. He got done. I mean, he was. God, I think when he was 2021, he led the country in punt returns. I mean, just unbelievable. He was a better person. Just an unbelievable dude. I think of him. He's right now playing. He's had a great contract with Ottawa in the CFL. Just he's one of those guys that.
5'8", 175.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, and he was probably pound for pound strongest guy on the team. Just the way
That's like a Bob Sanders type.
oh, dude, he just the way he worked. But his work ethic was you had to hold him back.
Yeah,
Like you looked at we had the GPS and you look at his numbers of GPS, it's just like, dude, how can he does it, and
it's just a special
unbelievable,
guy.
special. Him, I think of we had Bernard Raymond, or was our offensive tackle, who was a tight end for us here. That we moved the tackle. Signed, got drafted by the Colts. I think of who he was a person who was here. He was from a different country. Different country. I mean, he was from Austria,
Wow.
came to the States here in high school. And again, it was work ethic. He put on like 50 pounds and just the way he worked. I mean, there's a bunch of dudes. I can go all day about the dudes that we coached here because, I think a lot of them were just under recruited, doubted, and that created a chip on their shoulder. No pun intended, but they just worked their tails off.
Ooh, you guys. Oh, that's a chip on the shoulder. Is
Well,
like a
like
perfect.
yeah, but I mean, I think there's a lot of guys here.
Yeah.
And I could probably have a whole podcast about those guys.
Oh yeah.
Troy. We had a kid named Troy Harrison, a guy named Lou Nichols, a guy named Dante Cat.
Probably a lot of guys at that level that are like, they're like, this is bull. Like I deserve to be at a place like Iowa. I deserve to be at a place like.
Yeah, I think what happens, you have this mentality, right? You have this mentality like, okay, maybe I could play there, okay, but now this is the thing, though. That's okay. That's what it is. But now you have an opportunity to go prove every single day. So when you go out there and every time you practice, you have to dig into your why a little bit, right? And that's the cool thing to watch those mentalities grow. And we had a walk-on here. His name was Troy Harrison. Was a walk-on and earned a scholarship, defensive player of the year in the MAC, and got picked up by the Texans. I mean, so you just have so many great stories. So I think of a place like that. I think of a place like Delaware State. I think of dudes. We had a guy named Bryce Aileen, who's a running back for us, small dude, like 5'6", but just worked his tail off. I just think of the work ethic.
Yeah.
We had a tight end, and then Isaiah. Well, we just had so many great dudes that just, they might not be playing NFL, but they were guys that just came in, had a work ethic, bought into it, and are now maybe coaching, that are fathers. You call them up. Like, that's what makes me so proud, right?
Yeah.
I think of Iowa. I mean, I tell you this, when I was at Iowa, I think one of the things that we were really fortunate to be a part of, okay, was you're part of like something that doesn't happen in college football a lot, which is you have a staff, you have a figurehead there that's been there for 20 plus seasons, right? And what I'm going to say is when you have that, you're seeing things that typically don't happen anywhere else. It's college football nowadays, 2 years are done, but you're able to see it all. You're like, when I was at Iowa, I think the thing that we always had appreciation of was the history.
Yeah.
Okay. And the history I'm talking about was 1999. Like, you're a 1-win team. 2000, you're a 3-win team, right?
Yeah.
2001, you're a 7-win team in the Alamo Bowl. Like, and guess what? 2002, boom, you're like, you see that, right? So I think when you are an assistant, you're learning that you got to learn the history, right? You're learning like this is what it takes. It's no overnight success. You've heard it before. It's slide.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as overnight success. It's not going to happen. It's going to be investment time after time, but you're actually a part of it. And then you hear the stories, and you hear like the Steinbecks, the Ross, the Krolls, the Mitch Kings, the Brad Banks, the Chad Greenways, Abdul Hodges. Like, you hear all these names, right? You hear all these dudes, and you do your homework, and you're like, these are freaking tough guys,
studs.
They studs, but what they stood for, what they were about, Brandon Sheriff, and I mean, I can go on all day about these dudes, but it wasn't so much the athleticism, Kluver. It wasn't so much what that guy lifted or how fast that guy ran.
Sure.
It was who showed up every single day, and who showed up on game day, who did it, who was about it. Like, those are the things that I think you respect. I think that 2015 team, like a dude, like, and I, great friends with Adam Cox. Like, Adam Cox, right?
Coxie, baby.
I mean, he's coaching, he's killing it. But here's Coxie. Like, Coxie's out there, was a walk-on dude, fullback. And we even talk about it. Like, one of the most impressive things about him was he comes as a walk-on his second year in camp. And I remember he didn't make the invite to the camp back in the day.
Yeah.
And I remember that all. I never forget. His off season was like, who the hell is this dude? He's working his tail off, and you see a dude like that, and then he goes and he makes it to camp the following year, and he was one of those leaders that year. And I think like Jacob Hillier, and Austin Blythe, and you just think of the dudes that just drew out, like you said, and all those dudes. I don't want to. I mean, guys, like there's so many names. I don't want to.
It's all right. They don't listen to the show.
But it's like you just think of what those dudes stood for, and what they were about, and how they've grown. And I think the most impressive thing was just their work ethic, man.
Yeah.
And those are things you value,
That kind of leads me to my last question, because I don't want to take up all your time, although I could talk all day. This is going to be 12 hours. You have 3 kids. I have 2 kids. It's something I'm really, really, I think about more and more. How old are your kids?
10, 8, and 4.
So they're fully into sports. The older
we're rolling into it. Yep.
As the strength conditioning guy,
yep.
How do you approach that with your kids, or how will you approach it with your kids? Because even as like my 2.5-year-old daughter last night, she like it was a breakthrough playing catch in the basement.
Yeah.
And she's like, for the first time, showing me the hand-eye coordination of bringing her hands together to catch the ball. Yeah. And the coach, all I can think about is the fucking mechanics. Like, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, we're going to start. And every time I've got some plyo boxes in the garage. I got some real little ones, some foam ones. She likes to jump around on them. I'm like, yeah, we're doing box jumps today. Like, how do you approach that with your kids? And eventually they're going to be in in middle school and a high school strength program. How do you think about that?
All right. It's funny. I was actually having this conversation with a parent the other day. So I'm dad first.
Yes.
Okay. And again, it's kind of like you don't take work home with you. And I was talking to a parent. My kids they were doing flag football this summer. The flag football for the summer just finished. They play soccer. They wrestle, twice a week. So they're in it. They're doing stuff. They're active. And the first thing I always tell them is this: like, listen, I just want you guys to have fun. Like, just have fun, man. Like you're kids. Like I think the adults, we screw it up for them.
Yeah.
We mess it up. And because I know for us, when we were coming up, we just did because we had fun because our buddies played it. So we played it and we did it and we liked it. Because I'm going to tell you this, being on the other side of it now, I think you have a lot of kids nowadays that are getting burnt out. Okay. And I see a lot more now where kids were, they were doing sports. And it was like they were specialized at 6 years old and all they do was that one sport. By the time they get to college, they're done. They ain't got the juice in them anymore. They're like, it's like you're talking to a 45-year-old. It's like, no, man, you're 20 years old. But I think number one, I want them to have fun. I want them to do all this stuff. And I tell them, like, listen, the only thing I care about is you guys having fun, but you better compete, you better work, and don't quit. That's the only thing. It's not coach talking. This is dad talking. So I tell them, like, this is dad. This is not coach. So, like, I remind because
you have to.
I got to remind myself because, like, I'll watch my kids play something. Like, all right, you want dad? Or you want coach? Which one do you want? I want dad. I'm like, okay, but coach is going to talk right now. Like, so it's like the little things. But I think first and foremost, the way you balance it is don't get concerned. I tell myself, don't get concerned what those kids are doing over there, what those kids are doing. Let your kids do it all. Let them do soccer, let them do basketball, let them do, if you want to play the piano, I don't give a damn. But I just want you to have fun. But like I said, you're going to work your tail off on it. Your biggest competition is yourself. So go find ways to get better and work towards that. You're not going to take any shortcuts. And again, because all you're trying to instill are the right values.
Yep.
Right? Like my kid, wrestling 8 years old, he's not going to get a Division I scholarship. It's not happening right now. Like I want my kid to go on the mat and I want him to get his butt kicked. And then I want him to come back to me crying. I'm going to say, okay, now figure this out. Stop crying. Let's go do this. And then I want him, week after week for him to control his emotions. Because I think both my boys wrestle. And I think there's nothing, wrestling is one of the greatest sports.
Yeah.
Especially for young kids on how to control their emotion. Because in wrestling, it's the only sport where it's you against another guy by yourselves, and you can't depend on no one else. And my kids they're growing with it because they've had to learn. Okay, I'm gonna get my butt kicked here. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna fight and earn to win here. And guess what? I might lose again. It doesn't matter, but it's just those values. So I think number one, you're a dad, you're a parent first, and if my kids don't want to play it, screw it. I ain't gonna do it.
Yep.
It's what it is. But there's things that you're gonna do. Like you're not gonna be at home on video games all day. Like you're gonna be active. So I think that's part of parenting. Like there's no parenting's a crapshoot, Kluver, right? I mean, our kids are still, and we're gonna mess up a lot of things, like all parents do. We're not gonna be perfect at anything, and that's part of the beauty in it. We're just going to figure stuff out as time goes. And as long as, I think personally, if you teach them the right values, you keep them having their faith in the man above, and you have them do things a certain way, good things usually turn out.
Coach, like I said, I could talk for 12 hours. I really wish that we would have had Kevin and Drake on for this.
Oh man, that would have been something, man.
We'll find another time to get them on because they're going to listen to this and they're going to be jealous of me that I got to have this conversation with you.
Good dudes, man. Good dudes.
You can find for those listening, you can find the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Chippewas win totals, game lines at FanDuel all season long. If I know anything about Coach Welsh over there, he's probably got him. He's got him dialed in. So I'd take the over on that win total, whatever it is for the CMU team. I think I was at 7.5. Always doubted, Coach. Always doubted. Tough schedule in the Big Ten this year. Thank you.
Let's get it done.
Thank you again for joining the show. And for those listening, hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Appreciate you guys.